going to be watching Abandoned, Nickelodeon Studios Florida. Mwah-ah-ah-ah. And as your resident Floridian streamer, I would like to let you know my opinion on it. Like it matters. Let's check it out.
In the late 1980s, two entertainment Goliaths, Disney and Universal, were both planning to open studio backlot-inspired theme parks in Central Florida.
And Universal still clears, and Universal is the greatest park of all time, but the problem is that they don't have Mickey Mouse IPs, so they get actually destroyed. I really want Universal to prevail. I go there all the time to ride the rides, put my hands up, scream a little bit, pee my pants a little bit on the Velocicoaster. So good.
They were pitching Florida as the new Hollywood of the South. And when both of these theme parks opened, the largest tangible example of that concept, in this case being within Universal Studios Florida, was Nickelodeon Studios. It was coined as the world's first headquarters for kids, and it was
Dude, Nickelodeon Studios is like the Minecraft of buildings. Interpret that however you wish.
part functioning studio where many of the iconic Nickelodeon shows of the 90s were filmed, and part theme park attraction where guests could actually watch the production of those very shows.
I kind of like
this
that.
was all relatively short-lived, and it was all closed down by the mid-2000s.
Was Double Dare the Nickelodeon show where you would watch people do like Mario Party minigames and you would just get rage baited as a child? Dude, I would get rage baited so much watching TV as a kid. Like, they would do like the minigame where they had to walk on the tiles, but they saw the image before, and they would always get it wrong, and I'd start screaming like, "Come on, pay attention! What are you doing?" Or I would get rage baited in the temple game too. But the problem with Legends of the Hidden Temple is actually, if I was in their shoes, I would be scared so bad. Like, there were so many jump scares. The music was terrifying. There were, like, adults that were, like, grabbing you and, like, beating the crap out of you. That would have been really scary.
It would then continue to sit abandoned for years to come. What's up, guys? My name is Jake, and in this special 85th episode of Abandoned, let's revisit an iconic abandoned theme park attraction I did a video on all the way back in early 2015. And
why'd I sound like DS1 guy dying? Dude, 2015 was the greatest year ever. I miss 2015 like it was yesterday.
let's take a deeper look into this fascinating story and find out what has happened since. This is Nickelodeon Studios Florida.
Wow. Everybody shut up, my show's on.
In the mid-1980s, as it happens, both the Walt Disney Company and Universal Studios were both planning new theme parks in Florida. Disney World, of course, was already well established, with two existing theme parks. Championed by their CEO, Michael Eisner, the plan was to build a large live-action and animation studio in conjunction with a theme park.
That's kind of a cool idea. What's a show I would want to watch get filmed live? Oh, Price is Right? I would destroy the Price is Right. Wheel of Fortune? Oh my god, I would go crazy on Wheel of Fortune.
Universal, on the other hand, was already working on something very similar. They were planning their first theme park outside of Hollywood.
I think they should make it a little bigger.
And just like their competitor, later named Disney MGM Studios, Universal Studios Florida would feature both an active production studio as well as a theme park. All of this was being touted as the new Hollywood of the South, a cheaper alternative to shooting film and television in California, and a way for these companies to make additional money on tourists coming to view those very productions live. It was an interesting idea, and there was a lot of hype around it, as well as a
Why doesn't Mr. Beast do this? I should not give Mr. Breast any ideas, but he should have a studio that people come out to and he's like, "Come on down, who wants $1 million? Who wants $1 million?" I'm like, me. Anybody else?
fierce rivalry between Disney and Universal. But then there was Nickelodeon, a popular and by now well-funded children's network that had been producing original programming like Rated K for Kids, Mr. Wizard's World, Pinwheel, and the extremely popular Double Dare. But the thing was,
I wanted to get slime so bad as a kid. Like, I just really wanted to know what it felt like. But I think the problem is I read an interview from somebody who did get slimed, but they said that they didn't like it because it's really sticky.
Nickelodeon had all of these shows being filmed in different locations across North America. They had
Ow. Okay, am I crazy? But now that I'm an adult, does that come down way too fast? Like, that looked painful. What is that? Like, that's a lot of pressure.
all of these shows being filmed
look at this
in
one.
different locations
Ow!
across
The green one
North
for
America.
sure. Ow,
They
ow,
had
that
no
looked hurt.
large central production facility, and that left them fragmented without the ability to scale new productions. By the late 1980s, Universal Studios Florida was more or less finalized in its overall design, even with some
Yeah.
initial construction already underway. In fact, their sound stages in Florida were already nearing completion. Ultimately, Universal pitched Nickelodeon on the idea of joining forces and setting up a production facility, but crucially give Universal a serious draw for younger children, as well as a year-round interactive attraction within the production central area of the park.
That is the moneymaker because I was an annoying kid. Like, I would see the Betty Crocker dump and bake, and I'd be like, Mom, we gotta get the Betty Crocker dump and bake. Oh my God. Like, I was gonna be cooking. Dude, advertising to kids is unfortunately so OP. I wanna go to Nickelodeon.
Park. The deal was inked in 1988, with Nickelodeon signing on for a multi-year contract, allowing them use of a large administration building as well as 2 dedicated sound stages flanking it. They would become Stage 18 and Stage 19, with the middle building being called B17. It was clearly a last-minute addition to the park, which is why it's not depicted on most concept art as well as the public model. It was now going to be
secret tunnel.
placed along a new street just south of the park, jetting off the main thoroughfare. On June 7th, along a new
Actually, I wanna
street
go back.
just south of the park,
Let's see what was huge back in the day. Okay, Ghostbusters, that's a pool. Like, everybody loved Ghostbusters back then. Nickelodeon Studios, yeah, that's a moneymaker. Hitchcock's 3D theater. 3D movies were insanely badass. I love Spy Kids 3D. The Fantastic World of Hanna-Barbera. I don't know who that is. Am I not old enough for that? Lucy, a tribute. Okay, that is for old people. There is the Gory, Gruesome, Grotesque Horror Makeup Show. Oh, they still had that. I think they literally just took that down. Like a little bit ago, like a month ago. Oh, that's Yogi Bear and Scooby-Doo. Okay. And then behind me right here is E.T. Adventure. They still have E.T. Adventure. And the thing about E.T. Adventure is that you give them your name whenever you go into E.T. Adventure. And at the very end, he goes, hello, thank you, Berry. The Adventures of Rocky and Bullwinkle. Murder, She Wrote Mystery Theater.
jetting off the main thoroughfare. On June 7th, 1990, Universal Studios Florida had officially opened to the public, and with it, so did Nickelodeon Studios Florida. The studio facade was plastered in a very 90s color scheme, but
I take the Taco Bell color scheme. Like, to me, this is humble beginnings. As soon as I see a foot involved on any logo, I know it's the bad end for Nickelodeon. It's lost all happiness at that point, and I just get sad.
overall playful and colorful, very indicative of the Nickelodeon aesthetic.
And
the
Taco
courtyard
Bell.
was also adorned with Nickelodeon-themed benches and the slime geyser, which was
I like theming, okay? Theming can take any park from a 5 to like an 8. There were some rides that I was riding when I was at Cedar Point with my dad because he loves to go ride roller coasters, so we went and go ride them together. There were a lot of roller coasters that weren't really themed. Like, they were like slapped down like roller coaster tycoon style, which makes sense because they want you to just enjoy the ride. But I wish that there was more theming. Like, Velocicoaster has great theming.
theatrically unveiled later that year. There were also some photo ops and later a few props and a gift shop. However, when the park first opened, you didn't necessarily feel all too disconnected from where you just arrived, as just beyond those
Florida?
photo ops was a weirdly large empty field and then the parking lot, which
That's where they were gonna put BerryCrepe land. Sorry, it's still in development, okay? We got some copyright issues.
the trees didn't really do a good job at hiding. No matter, as the real attraction was once you got inside, After you queued up under a large green canopy, you'd be brought through the studio, ascending up an escalator, up a large open-air loft, which was later painted with character murals. You'd be brought down large, elevated, and glass-enclosed walkways over top the stages, looking down onto the productions and having a guide explain to you what you were looking at. Since Nickelodeon's contract with Universal stated that they needed to be in production pretty much every day of the year, there would always be something for guests to gawk at.
That's a lot of pressure, like having a good idea every day. Is that possible? Well, I mean, I guess the format is very, not repetitive, but easy to get repetition out of. Like, it's just kind of like game shows, doing little funny things, minute to win it type shit.
The tour would also bring you by control rooms, costuming, a kitchen, and rather intrusively, the dressing rooms. Plus,
why are we watching kids get dressed? Dan Schneider? What are you doing?
kids would have the chance to participate in game shows and activities, as well as audition to be on the actual televised shows that were being taped that day. For those who weren't selected, well, they would at least have the option to be in the live studio audience. Through the early 1990s, the tour would constantly evolve, and so would the roster of shows being filmed at the studios. Nick Jr. filmed Eureka's Castle and Gullah Gullah Island. Sketch comedy shows included Roundhouse and All That, but the
All That. Dude, for some reason, every time I remember All That, my brain like automatically remembers Mr. Meaty. I don't know why they're like together in my brain. And then when I start thinking about Mr. Meaty, I also start thinking about Crashbox. Dude, Crashbox was an amazing show, but it was like a little too scary. I think that's why I'm not scared of like psychological horror, but I am scared of jump scares.
The most sizable roster of titles came in the form of game shows like Figure It Out, the numerous Double Dare variations, Nick Arcade, Nickelodeon Guts, Global Guts, What Would You Do, and Legends of the Hidden Temple.
My goat! The reason the game shows do well, and they also do well for YouTubers too, is because people at home can also play. So the watch time is very long because they're constantly wanting to answer more questions and do more fun stuff and like also feel like they're a part of it. So having a game show is actually OP, and I do want to do more game shows on the second channel.
Their hit shows included Launchbox and Keenan and Kel. See, I said it properly this time. Yeah, well, you know, it almost took me a decade to properly pronounce it in a video, but it's fine. If you weren't one of the 7,000 people who screamed at how I pronounced it in my original video, then I can't help you. And
you can rage bait people for comment engagement. Like, I used to do that, but then it kind of got boring. You can say the wrong thing on purpose, and people love to correct you.
anyways, those were just some of the more notable shows that were being filmed there. And of course, there were plenty more. Really, almost every original show Nickelodeon produced through the early to mid-1990s was filmed in the Florida studio. If you want a more detailed timeline of where and when these actual shows were in production, I highly suggest watching Paparina's video on Nick Studios. I'll leave a link in the description below. Clearly, though, the early years at the studios were an exciting time. The opening telecast, for example, was a big event in of itself, and throughout America, commercials would air on TV, compelling children to come visit and go behind the scenes at Nickelodeon.
It's been forever since I've seen a commercial. Thank you, ad blocker. Thank you, YouTube Premium. Thank you, not watching cable. And no radio. Silver, thank you for the raid. Thank you. Welcome in, everybody. It's Ben.
Nickelodeon. The studio would also be heavily marketed in other forms, mainly in the programs themselves, often showing off the studios, interacting with guests, holding special events, and announcing its filming location at the end of each show. One particularly notable one was the 1992 time capsule burial.
Did you guys do that when you were a kid? We even did that at my elementary school, and we all put something in it, and then they like buried it in the ground. I still don't know what was in it because I moved. I didn't get to see what they pulled out. And we also did one in high school where we wrote a note to ourselves, and then they gave that back to us after we graduated. Dude, my note was so cringy. I swear to God, I drew like Naruto or something on it, and I was like, in today's terms, it was like, I know that you get in trouble for liking anime, but stay based. I was just such a cringy kid.
broadcast was filmed just for the ceremony, as kids pulled together a collection of pop culture items that were relevant of the time, not to be opened until 2042. Mike
Oh! What do you think is in there? Comic book?
O'Malley hosted
Piece of the Berlin Wall? How the hell did Nickelodeon Studios get a piece of the Berlin Wall? Oh my god. MC Hammer? Does that say Reese's Pieces?
to the ceremony and himself made predictions, stating that kids of the future will always be able to visit this location and the world's first headquarters for kids.
Oh, one of them does say phone book. I don't know the last time I looked at a phone book. Do they still hand those out? Or like the yellow pages? Phone book was actually a good pull.
Which would really turn out to be wishful thinking. Regardless, Nickelodeon at the time was extremely popular, and the studios were a big draw for Universal's guests as a whole, especially since Universal was a bit of a letdown on opening day. It didn't have a vast number of attractions. Nickelodeon was a central part of the Universal experience.
You've got to have attractions when you open, man. Like, everybody's gonna be there and you're gonna give them nothing? It's kind of the same way whenever games release that are like friend swap and they have really bad audio. Like, you were holding on to this and you released it with horrible audio quality and bad microphones and no toggle mute and no audio options. You had one job!
Especially for those who actually wanted to see behind the scenes of TV production. The park's tram tour would also drive right through the courtyard, as well as take guests beyond the pathways and behind the main stages. But as time passed, Nickelodeon was starting to feel the long-term effects on how shooting in Florida would actually work.
No, you can shoot in Florida. Don't come to my house.
It turns out, people don't really want to have to relocate to Central Florida. Now yes, production labor was often cheaper and Nickelodeon wasn't forced by law to hire union staff, but on the other hand, there was also a significantly less capable talent pool.
Yeah, did they just say there's no talent in Florida? I mean, that might be true, but that's a little rude. I live here. I would go.
For the talent themselves, well, many strongly objected to actually moving to Florida, so most would just fly across the country for filming.
Dude, that is a horrible flight, by the way. When I went to Offkai, that was like 8 hours of flying. But there was one really good part about landing in LA. They were having a dog fest and there was a bunch of dogs around and you could pet them and they were so cute. And I pet this one golden retriever and he had his own trading card and I took it and it had a bunch of facts about him. He was awesome.
It began to get complicated, especially as directors brought their shows off-site and filmed them elsewhere. There were also just logistical headaches on the core design of the studios.
Yeah.
Long term, it was beginning to become a challenge to have theme park guests constantly flowing through active and inactive, made to look active because they were contractually made to, production space. Staff and talent were always being observed.
And the damn kids always needed a nap or a break or lunch. Oh my god, just work like you used to back in 1953!
Making this a less than ideal place to work. This is a problem that Universal Studios Florida was facing as a whole, as was Disney MGM Studios. Theme park rides, never-ending guests, and even the weather with the never-ending rain on the metal sound stages were a constant annoyance.
That's
Disney
scary.
was starting to plan and even build new attractions completely divorced from any backstage theming. Universal was also expanding in a big way, turning this single theme park into a whole resort, complete with new infrastructure, hotels, vast landscaping, a retail and entertainment district, and a completely new theme park that
They're gonna start taking all this down. Oh my god. Is that the Hulk? Dude, the Hulk used to be so cool when I was a kid, but now the track is kind of like old, so you just get the shit beat out of you, and you get like a huge headache, but it's still kind of fun.
Would ultimately become Islands of Adventure. This was a big, nearly $3 billion step for the entire resort.
Wow.
And it also meant that the original Universal Studios park would see some updates. By the mid to late 90s, it was following in Disney's footsteps, building brand new attractions based on IP instead of backlot theming. It was a new direction for the park, and saw the elimination of the studio tram tour. The fact of the matter was,
they still have that? I don't think
Universal
so.
Studios Florida wasn't seeing the number of high-profile film and television like they were in California.
It's because we watched that body cam where those people were walking around Universal Studios and they didn't want to go to the bathroom, so they just started peeing on the ground. That was disgusting, by the way. Yeah, we had to pee. What were we supposed to do?
Because there was nothing interesting being filmed on site, guests weren't all that interested in the backlot tours. Nickelodeon Studios was becoming the only way to see a real production, but even there, original programming was beginning to dry up. More producers and directors advocated for moving their productions to California, notably Keenan and Kel and all that.
Well, it's because everybody already lives there, right? And then they don't have to like fly out, and then you can just have like the same studio and people just show up and then they go home. That's what happened to me. I auditioned for Smosh and they were like, hey, do you want to work at Smosh? And I was like, okay, maybe. And they were like, you have to move to California. And I said, never mind. I don't want to work for Smosh that bad. I changed my mind.
For the entirety of 1996, there were no live audience game shows being filmed on site, and the studio's fate was becoming more and more apparent by the following year. In 1997, Nickelodeon purchased the Earl Carroll Theater along Sunset Boulevard in Los Angeles. They renamed it to Nickelodeon on Sunset and began transferring some of their productions over to that facility. Meanwhile, Nickelodeon laid off around 10% of their full-time workforce in Florida.
Oh my God, game studios be like, light work, no reaction. Only 10%? We can do better, let's up those numbers.
While some of those live-action productions were moving to California, animation was now becoming a larger part of the network's overall roster, and that was all being produced over on the West Coast.
Whoa! Hand-drawn animation has just such a beauty to it. It's insane that people were drawing things frame by frame. I don't know, I kind of miss it, but honestly, it's like not technically applicable anymore because you could just make like 40 movies in the time you make one Rugrats episode. But it is such a cool art.
The Florida studio didn't even have a facility capable of producing animation.
Ah! This is the bad era starting. As soon as the feet start going up, it's getting bad.
Television. By the late 90s, Universal Studios Florida was operating at a net loss, utilizing their studio space less and less. But they couldn't really do anything about it other than essentially sublease their space to third parties, since they were contractually locked into the facility until at least 2005. Universal certainly wanted them to stay, as the attraction for the studio was still pretty popular, despite the park-wide shift in theming. By the early 2000s, production within the two stages would become less frequent, with
See, that slime looks better. The other one looked like it had, like, rocks in it.
Even more employees laid off. This was also following the lackluster opening of Universal's new theme park, Islands of Adventure. And that paired with the tourism downturn of 2001, well, Universal was in a bad place overall. Nick Studios Florida was hemorrhaging money and providing little value.
Okay, this is a really deep question, so like let's not get too crazy. But did 2001 have less tourism because of 9/11 and people didn't want to fly anymore? Yes. Okay. I wanted to ask.
Bad place overall. Nick Studios Florida was hemorrhaging money and providing little value overall to the greater network. Fewer productions also made the tour attraction a lot less interesting and left it feeling a bit tired and even dated. Things were getting so desperate that Nickelodeon began auctioning off thousands of old props.
Dude, is that not crazy though? Like imagine you could buy stuff that was used on Nickelodeon shows. Dude, the stonks would be insane. I wish I would have got a really cool prop. That would be awesome.
Now, this wasn't to say Nickelodeon didn't have a place in theme parks, because it obviously did with the opening of a Jimmy Neutron simulator ride, as well as
New Cuck Cheer is wild. Hey, welcome in. Here's my wife Samantha, and take a seat on the big blue chair, the big chair. Yeah, pretty comfy, right? If you want to take out your notepad now, that would also be great, you know. Aqua POV.
auctioning off thousands of old props. Now, this wasn't to say Nickelodeon didn't have a place in theme parks, because it obviously did with the opening of a Jimmy Neutron simulator ride, as well as a water play area at the Universal Park in Hollywood. It was just the studios in Florida that was quickly becoming a redundant facility in the network. which meant there was just no sense in investing money in it for it to be an up-to-date attraction. I
Give me
think
the
everyone
money.
knew by this point there was no long-term future for the studio, and they were simply running it out of obligation until their contract expired. And that was coming up
Aww.
soon. Through the early 2000s, there were really no updates made to the experience, apart from a 2004 paint change following some damage after Hurricane Charlie, which
Oh, it was only because they had to.
actually saw the removal of the 90s Nickelodeon aesthetic. But this was merely cosmetic, and by early 2005, it was obvious Nickelodeon would not renew their contract.
Goodbye,
Nickelodeon Studios
Nickelodeon.
Florida closed on April 30th, 2005. The studios and attraction had been opened for just under 15 years.
When did the Xbox come out? Xbox was released in 2001. Oh, the Xbox 360 came out in 2005. Okay, so they closed Nickelodeon Studios and then I went to the Red Ring of Death. Great. Bad year. Bad year.
Over the next year, the studio facades would slowly lose their branding and theming, with the administrative building becoming just a green, nameless structure at the dead end of Universal Studios. The sound
Put food in
stages
there.
lost their advertising, all references to Nickelodeon were painted over, and the slime geyser was removed. Nickelodeon Studios
No, not the slime geyser. No, put it back, please. Anything but that.
was now an attraction of the past, and Universal was looking to reuse some of that real estate as soon as possible. In November of 2006, it was announced
I love old website designs. Oh my god. This reminds me of whenever I had Neopets when I was a kid, and I told you guys this before, but I had to like design my own Neopets page, and I didn't know that you could copy and paste HTML code, so I wrote it all down on a piece of paper, and then I went and I typed it in.
that Stage 18 would be converted to the Sharp Aquos Theater and would be hosting the Blue Man Group, a live stage show that was pretty popular at the time.
Wow.
Preparations for this got underway pretty quickly, painting Stage 18 blue with a massive Blue Man Group
guy.
mural and moving the secondary park entrance back.
I still can't believe the Blue Man Group is like still performing. No shade or anything, but like they've been performing for forever. How long can you be blue?
Turning this courtyard into public space. A long pathway would extend just beside Hard Rock Cafe, and the show opened on June 6th, 2007. By this point, the Nickelodeon time capsule from 1992 had also
It's not the same guys? Wait, they had babies? Did they have blue babies? The blue men. Blue mitosis. They took over new bodies. Wait, that makes sense because don't they have blue guys in Vegas too? I was wondering how they kept traveling back and forth. They're not the same blue men? Okay. You have blown my mind. I'm not even kidding. I thought that they were the same blue guys going back and forth over and over again. I thought that they were the hardest working blue men in the world.
2007. By this point, the Nickelodeon time capsule from 1992 had also been dug up and
Wait, that's June 6th? That's my birthday! In 2007, I was 10! Oh my god, on my 10th birthday, they opened this. Wait, June 6th, 2007. Get it out of your system. Get it out of your system. Yep. 6607. Yep.
By this point, the Nickelodeon time capsule from 1992 had also been dug up and relocated to the Nickelodeon Suites Resort over by Disney. It would
Why does it look so murky? Like, that's some Green Goblin-esque contraption. What the hell is that?
actually remained there until 2016, when the hotel was closed and rebranded to a generic Holiday Inn. The location of the time capsule thereafter was sort of up in the air, though it was confirmed that it had been moved to the animation studios over in California. Now, following the opening of Blue Man Group, Nickelodeon did
By the way, not the same guys performing now. Just in case you were curious.
It actually returned to Universal Studios Florida for a brief period in 2008, utilizing the larger sound stages behind the old studios for the filming of My Family's Got Guts.
I could do
Once
that.
the show wrapped, though, it would be the last time Nickelodeon would produce anything from Universal Studios in Florida.
So My Family doesn't have guts anymore? Are we droggers? What's happening? Oh!
While Stage 18 was now home to this new Blue Man Group show, Stage 19 and the middle iconic Nickelodeon administrative building, well, they were just left essentially abandoned.
Really?
Neither were removed or really altered in any significant way. From
Okay, no, I'm sorry. This is not supposed to be a Blue Man React. How many Blue Men exist? There are 65 to 70 active Blue Men with over 120 total performers. What the hell?
the outside, they just got a very bland white and blue paint job. Though curiously, the orange railings were actually left as they were.
I like
not
them.
being
Well, blue and orange are complementary colors, right? So they like look good against each other. Like me and yo mama.
painted to blue until 2013. This left almost no visual design cues from the original Nickelodeon days, apart from one wall facing away from guests, though it too would be
lazy.
painted over in 2016.
No! They got rid of this ride, by the way. They're putting a Fast and Furious ride there now. It's dead.
But inside, well, it was a completely different story. As early as 2006, people would start finding their way inside the now closed studio and attraction,
How?
and they would find pretty much everything exactly as it was.
Dude, what am I thinking of? There was a controversy. It's some company, I don't know if it was Disney, where they were drawing like corn of the characters, and somebody went into like the studio or like something got leaked and they found like the official Disney corn. I think it was Disney. Yeah.
Photos began emerging of large props, both from the attraction tour and the actual production sets themselves. Meanwhile, over in the administration offices, well, they too were left completely untouched. Back in the 90s, when the studio first opened, all of these offices were highly themed and continued to evolve as new shows came out. By
That was a terrifying image.
all of these offices were highly themed and continued
Like, this is an SCP. The Alaskan Bullworm SCP.
to evolve as new shows came out. By 2012, all of these spaces continue to sit there abandoned, and this was notably
Wow.
documented by Adam the Woo. In the late 1990s, the escalator room that spanned 2 floors was, as we know, a large open space filled with the bright Florida sunshine pouring through the square windows on the 2nd floor. It was decorated with large cutouts and murals of the wild thornberry
He passed away? Really? Oh my god, that's really sad.
animated show. And now, nearly a decade since the show had been taken off the air, it sat disused and abandoned, no longer an active thoroughfare for thousands of daily guests. Nickelodeon branding of the era would be found all across doors, seating, with the distinctive typeface found everywhere else.
looks like
Disused and
Chase.
likely outdated production equipment were left in control rooms. Dust was now collecting on the old dressing rooms, and the interior hallways were left exactly as they were the day the studio closed, adorned with floor-to-ceiling artwork from Ren and Stimpy. Some of the larger and less
Aww.
themed spaces
Yeah, free CRT, free CRT, free chairs, free piano, free table. Just, you know, you got to do like the ultimate heist of taking it out of like the studio under your shirt or something. But like all of this is free.
were being rented out or used by Universal for smaller events. But presumably, the administration space was left completely unused, which is likely why it remained stuck in time. And it was pretty shocking to see this, as everyone thought Nickelodeon from the 90s was now gone forever. But in fact,
Wow.
behind those walls was a completely different world from a completely different time. For a full decade, these interiors of Nickelodeon Studios remained as they were, completely abandoned. Finally,
Come
in
as you are.
2015, Universal Studios' production arm announced they would be investing a little over $1 million into renovating the space to accommodate modern equipment and build out a live and post-production support facility. And it makes sense to do
Wow.
this, especially if Universal
How do I get $1 million so I can do this? But not for them, but for me. And have like a giant theme park that you guys could come to. How get $1 million.
Universal saw there was enough demand when renting out their other stages, including the adjacent stage 19. So work began in 2015, first with ripping out the escalators in the main entrance room, and
Escalators are so scary because I always thought as a kid that they eated your shoes, and then whenever it got your shoe, it would pull you in and you would die.
taking down the old murals. I remember being allowed inside the former studio back in December of 2015, capturing this footage from the now freshly painted escalator-free room. It was now bland and generic, free of any Nickelodeon theming. Really, as was the rest of the structure, now completely devoid of any personality. The open space was as utilitarian as possible, with live events and production gear stacked up everywhere.
This would be a fun backrooms level. Just like running away from like, what's the scariest Nickelodeon character? Dan Schneider! Okay, that would be terrifying. Oh my god, oh hell no.
From that point on, that's how the former Nick Studios would remain. Universal would construct the massive Rip Ride rocket roller coaster in the summer of 2009. I loved this ride before it died. And its load station would tightly squeeze up against stage 18 with the
just 999,999 more of these and Barry will be a millionaire. I better get the first ticket to Barry World. I got you, thank you!
Pathway to the Blue Man Group hugging the final few turns of the track. By 2012, Sharp Aquos had dropped their sponsorship for the Blue Man Group. Their logo—
oh no, they got canceled. They got Blue Man docked. What did they do? They lost their sponsor, man.
It was of course removed and the facade saw a new paint job. It wouldn't be until early 2020 when Universal had shut down the park due to the pandemic. Blue Man Group of course shut down with it. However, upon the park's
they blew it.
reopening, Blue Man did not join it. In fact, the show's parent company, Cirque du Soleil, had filed for bankruptcy over the pandemic, suspending all shows out of crippling financial pressure. By early 2021, it was announced Blue Man Group would not return. Stage 18 was painted over in solid blue, and City Walk access to the building was now closed off. The theater would be used on and off for seasonal events, notably the park's Grinchmas events.
Dude, there's so many people who want to the Grinch. I see it all the time on TikTok where they talk to him, they're like, he's so hot.
Which streams guests into the former Stage 18 theater for a Grinch-themed Christmas show. Apart from that, it's pretty ironic that once again, this area has been left in a limbo, abandoned state. Blank blue signs now dot the area.
Why are they pointing at me? And no, I was not talking about me and the Grinch, okay? It was not me. No, okay. And the other thing I see on TikTok all the time now is there's like this lady, you probably have seen this one. This one's a little bit more like, I guess normal. Well, not normal. It's like more in normal culture. I'm not calling you normie. Okay, this is going horribly wrong. There's this lady who's like following around Peter Pan at Disneyland, I think. And she like keeps taking pictures with him and like falling in love with him. And they have like a relationship in her head, but like they're not together, but she thinks that they're like dating and she follows him around. No, not me.
And a permanent pathway is now gated off. The whole facade and courtyard area looks more or less the same as it did since 2007, just now with an empty box office booth and no future plans.
Aww.
Today, the same remains true. There are no future plans, and the whole site is in a bit of a weird area. The former street that led you there, which is now adjacent to the Despicable Me attraction, is just a dead end with a gate. You can look past the gates, but the whole area looks desolate, and it doesn't seem like there's any immediate plans in the works to put the area in use. The buildings, however, are being used. It seems like the most regular tenants are the students at the Dave School for
I'm pretty sure when I bought one of my cameras from that guy in the parking lot, he works here. Because I met him and I needed like one more camera. And I was like, can I have yours? And then I paid for it. And I think he works at this place. Yeah, he drove a long way. He drove a long way. But it's because the cameras are kind of expensive. So it was really worth it. No, he didn't steal it. He did not steal it. I hope not.
animation and visual effects, which has a permanent residency within Stage 25. Though it's possible there is a more permanent tenant within Building 17 that isn't widely publicized. But with the closure of Blue Man Group, regular public access to the area is no longer possible. You can view the structure from the balcony of the Hard Rock restaurant, peek at it through the in-park gates, and maybe get an up-close look during park events.
Barry has a connect and she didn't even know. Dude, the funny thing was, when I met him, since he's like an older gentleman, he was like, I didn't know what this VTubing thing was, so I looked it up. What the hell? It was so funny. I felt like I was talking to my dad.
All that's left, though, is the overall architecture for the studios, hidden behind white and blue paint. At this point, there really isn't much left to see, inside and out. The only obvious, tangible remnants of the area.
And who slimed in the bathroom? Who here slimed in the bathroom? Disrespectful.
Areas past are in the bathrooms adjacent to the building, as on the floor, you'll find the distinctive lime green tile.
That is disgusting, by the way. Like, why would it ooze out of the toilets?
Nickelodeon Studios Florida, both in its tangible structure and in concept, is now a relic of the past.
Yeah.
Both Universal Studios and Disney's MGM, now called Disney's Hollywood Studios, have largely dropped the backlot behind-the-scenes theming. From what I understand, Disney rarely utilizes their back-of-house production offices. And
dude, I don't even really like Disney that much, and I'm not trying to be like different and cool and not like the other girls, but the thing that I always think is the most interesting is like the people behind the scenes, like how they design the park, how they make the animatronics, how they do like the engineering for the coasters and stuff. Like, it's really cool. I wish that there was more like behind the scenes stuff to look at.
Has either demolished or completely replaced all of their sound stages, filling them in with IP-based attractions.
Yeah,
Universal
money
followed suit on the attraction side of things, but kept all of their sound stages, with Nickelodeon proving to be the largest and, for a time, most successful production company in all of Florida. In fact, Nickelodeon would continue to be the largest production network creating content in Florida through its entire run of this dream as the new Hollywood of the South.
I have a question. Raise his hand. Why did they put all of this in Florida? You know, the ball sack of America. It is so hot. You sweat like crazy. It's not fun to walk around. It sucks. Oh, taxes? And it's cheap. Damn you! Damn you, money! Damn you!
And while Universal does utilize their sound stages for external production use, I don't think it's anywhere close to what they had imagined.
For the slime to gain more power is terrifying.
But as time went on, the logistics and costs began to make no sense. It wasn't a viable long-term business, and enthusiasm rather abruptly shifted away from Florida and onto other profitable avenues to go down. It's clear that the dream Disney...
Maybe that's why I'm not excited to go to work. You light me on fire! Disney tax doesn't also have more land grab power there and more properties around them. Oh, you guys are smart. Came from the community rate and decided to say because energy and Barry's very amazing. Well, looking forward to lurking around. Oh, thank you! You guys so nice. Thanks for being nice.
And Universal had to bring Hollywood to Florida just was a failure. But it really was a big shame to see this happen, especially for someone like me who loved Nickelodeon programming growing up.
Me too, but then I learned the truth. Wom wom.
I even have photos of myself standing in Nickelodeon photo ops at Universal, one with a Nickelodeon stage looming precariously in the background, preparing to close just a few years after I visited. And now, with nearly 20 years since its closure, well, the remnants of the vibrant and nostalgic past is now nothing more than a seemingly innocuous, bland structure. Even with the new use given to a portion of the studios, it too is now abandoned with little hope for a future. And while Nickelodeon does have other attractions and weirdly modern and luxurious resorts around the world, it's undeniable that it's a different network and a different company. I think the studio...
Yeah, soon it's gonna be YouTuber land, and you guys are gonna get to ride Mr. Beast's big machine. You're gonna be on Cocoa Melon Coaster. Who else? Beauty Pie Bridge? I hope not. No. I don't think they're gonna build that.
Studios in Florida was a really unique and really special way for a network to connect with its audience. It was a way for the cameras to turn around to the actual viewers and see kids interact with their favorite shows.
Okay, guys, I'm gonna turn the camera around on you right now. Say something good. Okay. No. You're blowing it. You're blowing it.
It was just good television, and maybe that's coming from someone who has rose-tinted glasses,
I love this game.
looking back fondly on something I grew up watching. But I really do think this was all lightning in a bottle. And clearly I'm not the only one thinking that, as there's lots of people out there who have massive connections with this place. I mean, it's why so many people watched my original video, despite it being so poorly produced.
Stop being mean to yourself, man. You're a great creator. Your videos are awesome. Stop being mean.
It's also why we see classic items go up for auction and sell for insane prices.
20,000.
Like this original time capsule cover that went up for auction and sold for close to $20,000. Same for this toilet paper from
$224 toilet paper. We're back in times.
1993, which sold for a little over $220. But regardless of how the physical
Did it say unused? Let me fix that. Okay, did the value go up or value go down?
sold for a little over $220. But regardless of how the physical relic of Nickelodeon in the 90s is now long gone, it still exists in the thousands of hours of media produced there, and the millions of kids who fondly remember visiting it.
Aww.
But as the doors closed for one final time, and those iconic remember visiting it, but as
I'm not laughing at the closure. I was laughing because I thought this was a BerryCrepe creeper.
As the doors closed for one final time, and those iconic, once abandoned interiors finally cleared out, I guess at the end of the day, both its viewers and the network grew up.
Aww,
Thanks.
wait, that was a really well-written ending, and I was just thinking of Minecraft. That was a good ending.
For watching this video, and if you remember watching my original Nickelodeon Studios video back in 2015, well, thank you so much for sticking with me and my channel. That was an incredibly important video for the channel, and because it was so poorly put together back then, compared to now at least, I figured I should cover this very nostalgic topic again in my own way. You know the drill. If you want to follow me elsewhere, I'm also on Instagram, Twitter, and if you want to support the channel, I have merch and a Patreon where you can get exclusive perks like Polaroids, your name at the end of each video, and early video previews.
My
name is Jake, and seriously, thank you so much for watching.
Bye, Jake! Thank you so much! Thank you guys for watching as well. If you're new here, please come by the Twitch stream, twitch.tv/BerryCrepe, or use code Berry for 10% off your gamer subs order. That also super helps me out. I hope you have a great evening. Goodbye, YouTube!